Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to the Dreaming Prophet. Tonight, we're getting back to old school education and those remedial classes that we all skip school over, speech therapy, because just like your mother said, you need to keep the old tongue before you lose that old tongue. But don't worry, Course's dedicated lesson plan will make prescriptivist of us yet. My name is Lavanya.
I'm Astro.
And I'm Xaviul.
This is a Blackout Club show for Blackout Club players with minimal speculation, all lore, and a focus on the known facts. Our topic of the day is the old tongue.
As always, we'll start off with our spoiler and content warnings, and spoiler, the Dreaming Prophet is not spoiler-free. We are free range, we are full of parasites of knowledge, and it is likely contagious, and by likely, I mean it is. Our content warning for today is discussions of suicide, brainwashing and mind control, and discussion of eldritch languages, but for once, there are no dead children.
And joining us today, we have a guest.
Hey everybody, it's Azhaiel here. I play mainly on PS4. I usually run around with people like Brenna, Crow, and sometimes Sparrow.
In February of 2020, Question Games released the Cursed update for TBC.
This update added a feature called Cursed Ciphers to the game. They appear as tablets or phones that scream and scream and scream and display a staticky image of hands reaching out of the screen just to make sure you really want to pick that up. When you pick them up, as you inevitably will be tempted into doing, they will give you a curse. Who could have guessed?
These curses modify the player's gameplay in a variety of ways to add an additional challenge to the game.
If the player successfully escapes their mission with the curse applied, all players in the game will be rewarded with 2 special gestures.
These gestures are words of the old tongue, such as it's a nice little pose where you do a flex.
And the most important pose of all, beast.
But what is Old Tongue?
Old Tongue existed in the lore from the very beginning of the game, although players may not necessarily remember it. This is because players were initially told by SAO that they shouldn't investigate it and that it was not meant for children's eyes. Thanks, SAO.
Some of the gestures, like drink the sky and chase the sun, were confirmed to be examples of the old tongue early, but it wasn't an actual mechanic beyond that in the game until the update.
Daemons defined it as a language of music and movement, but there's a lot more to it than just that.
In fact, there are 4 parts to it. The first part is movement. This movement aspect is primarily the cipher gestures.
These gestures are named with 3 different words with slashes in between them. For example, there will be fear, /flee, /from, or test /youth /strength. They aren't direct translations to English. I'm sure there's a lot of minutia, lost between trying to translate an eldritch language into English. So one gesture can have multiple meanings to it.
Because just like we were all taught in the important moral lesson of The Little Mermaid, body language is sometimes the most important language of all, but not the only language. Old Tongue also includes music. The Concise Oxford Dictionary, which I'm sure everyone owns, defines music as the art of combining vocal or instrumental sounds, or both, to produce beauty of form, harmony, and expression of emotion. What does that mean for Old Tongue? We don't know. Our player characters may be deaf.
After some players showed them a few cipher gestures, SAO said they wanted to look for the audio component of the phrases. We know it exists somewhere, but right now we just don't seem to have it.
And SAO's a little bit of a hypocrite wanting to look for it now.
We never said they weren't biased.
Oh, they're super biased.
Hey, no propaganda of me.
But that's all you ever do.
There's one that happens to have a audio component to it currently. That's drink the sky. It's an old tongue phrase that's been in the game since the beginning, I believe, right? And right now it's the absolute only one that has an audio component. It was confirmed by a question that it is intentional, and we don't really know if it's actually Old Tongue audio or if it's some other sound cue, but it is nifty.
The third component of Old Tongue is time. The Aidair specifically mentions the length of time a position was held, so time may indicate rhythm. It may also refer to the time taken to express ideas. Old Tongue was noted in many cases to take months of dedicated practitioners to perform a single sentence.
Which also, the number of people performing the gesture can kind of control how strong it is, I suppose. If there's more people performing a command in the Old Tongue, it makes it that much harder to resist. And it has been described as alive but not living. And the measure cuts, he cautioned players through the Aidair, quote, "As you learn of it, it learns of you," end quote.
A lot of our understanding about what Old Tongue is centers on what it can do.
So what can Old Tongue do?
The real question is, what can't Old Tongue do? Anything you can do, Old Tongue can do better. Think of it as a living, moving YMCA dance almost.
I would rather not.
For example, Old Tongue can be a code because it's sometimes spoken of as one, as a way to communicate, command, and also maybe create, because the daemons themselves are made of Old Tongue.
The Aidair says, quote, "We are all made of such a base, all our complexity deep down. We are a sequence, elemental," end quote.
When Dance for Us was silenced, we know that Old Tongue was used. Hunt the Strong learned her name and used it to have control over her, enough to silence her. And the Aidair was fragmented. Those fragments were made by performing phrases in the Old Tongue. Parts of his name probably, since as we collect them, he's commented several times about them being pieces of himself.
We also know of two universal constants to our eldritch overlords. All daemons have a name in Old Tongue, and the most important thing for a daemon is that name, in both English and in Old Tongue. A demon's name is the embodiment of their core philosophy, so they want you to say their name. But most critically and most relevant here, when their name changes, they change with it. The Aidair has said that daemons are made out of Old Tongue, but it's worth noting being made out of Old Tongue also means they are defined by it.
Old Tongue is also a language. Old Tongue used to be the way humans spoke way, way back before the Aidair split from Speak as One. All of humanity spoke together as one through Old Tongue.
Since most of the daemons don't remember that distant past very clearly, it's hard for us to know what they were communicating. The Aidair says at that time, quote, "There were no small thoughts," end quote. He describes the use of Old Tongue then as, quote, "only actions, reports, corrections," end quote.
Old Tongue can be used as a destructive force. We've seen this a couple of times in the lore, but honestly, we can summarize this into a nice little 5-second sound bit called, "This shit's really dangerous. It's not OSHA compliant, and you will be harmed through extensive use."
In its defense, it was made long before OSHA was.
OSHA is eternal. So what we can mostly get from that is Old Tongue is very dangerous for humans. The daemons have resisted getting the kids involved in Old Tongue shenanigans for literally 2 years in real life. How long is that in game terms? Don't ask questions. This shift, recruiting the club kids to participate in this fucked up detective work with regards to eldritch languages, is very new.
We've been told multiple times that Old Tongue can cause host death. In the distant past, the daemons didn't view humans as alive, so they didn't really care about the danger. It's like if you have a toy and it breaks, you get a new one.
Relatable.
So they performed some Old Tongue words that probably definitely led to hosts dying.
But don't worry about it.
Don't worry, you're replaceable, especially lavanya.
Old Tongue can also compel humans to do things that might harm themselves. The Aidair says that one of his fragments, the one in 1001 Hoadley's bathtub, was compelled to kill himself by Old Tongue. Old Tongue, especially used by a large group, can override any one person's will. The Aidair says, quote, "The body cannot resist," end quote.
And the Old Tongue's also dangerous for daemons. As we mentioned before, Old Tongue can give them the ability to control other voices. Hunt the Strong silence danced for us this way, and as far as we know, she's gone. Daemons frequently act like an unrestrained force on humanity, and the Old Tongue is the only way that you can control them, the only law that they will obey.
They aren't really bound to listen to the things kids ask them to do, but sometimes they choose to humor us. Old Tongue, conversely, seems to be able to force them to do things.
So technically, when it comes to Old Tongue and the daemons, we just have to put all those glorious old school PSAs to the side and use it to bully the fuck out of them.
I mean, that was the reason we had to find Hunt the Strong's name, right? So we could just, put him in a chokehold and make him listen to us.
Just harass him by singing Rick Astley at him.
Exactly.
Some extra details. Ciphers are pieces of the Old Tongue. Many of the daemons have called them worms or worms of the Old Tongue. The Aidair likens them to small talk, quote, "tiny daggers of meaning," end quote.
In Her Teeth says of the ciphers, quote, "They are not alive as I am, but they have life," end quote.
Old Tongue is something of a lost art. Although preconscious humanity used it freely, many of Redacre's modern daemons don't know it at all and have had to learn, research, and work for it. They're not very good at it. That's why they have us.
They're all in remedial school, and most of them are still flunking.
Technically, we should be getting paid as tutors, but unfortunately, the daemons are not only eldritch, it turns out they're really, really cheap.
It's more like an unpaid internship.
It's fine. They pay us in masks and shirts, guys.
Do you think Speak as One will serve as my reference?
Definitely not. No. The Aidair says that humans may also struggle with the Old Tongue. Quote, "The word, the song, revisions, descendants of the Old Tongue. With your minds holding both, the Old Tongue is denied to you," end quote.
The Aidair specifically says he can't learn the Old Tongue right now. Quote, "The Old Tongue escapes me now. It is of the body entirely. I bind myself over and over to retain what I learn like this. It costs me. Perhaps the Old Tongue must be effortless, felt, not concentrated on. My every moment is the opposite. Do not forget. Do not dissolve." End quote.
Man, sounds rough. Before her death, Dance for Us had done a lot of research on the Old Tongue. What she knew, Hunt the Strong now has. And as a fun bit of trivia, the way humans dance now is also a derivative of Old Tongue. If you tried to read it as Old Tongue, it would probably just be the equivalent of gibberish. Dance for Us tried to make Old Tongue cool, hip, and happening, and thus created dance. Speak as One refers to dancing itself as, quote, "corrupting physical meaning," end quote. So really, if you think about it, dance is just Old Tongue slang, and that's why Speak as One hates it.
Dance for Us made the dab.
Speak as One is the boomer who just doesn't understand all these millennials dancing.
So why does the Old Tongue matter?
Old Tongue is kind of TBC's MacGuffin. A MacGuffin is a story analysis term, a thing that is key to the characters and the plot that usually wouldn't be that significant to anyone else.
This has kind of caused the arms race for the Old Tongue, where every daemon is trying to master it because they know all the other daemons are mastering Old Tongue.
What are they going to do with it? Who knows?
The one who masters it first has the potential to control all the other daemons. Hunt the Strong could use it to silence more and consume them, take over their followers, and basically become the only thing left standing. Speak as One could use it to get all the other daemons out of Redacre, make it their perfect little paradise.
Yay!
Yay! See, the Grudge could use it to silence Hunt the Strong, and, I don't know, get rid of him, I suppose.
Take out the trash.
Last could use it to become the most eligible bachelor in all of Redacre.
You're saying he's not the most eligible bachelor?
Well, in my heart of hearts, he is, but I think a lot might disagree with me.
That impression of Hunt the Strong, it was beautiful.
Old Tongue also helps us understand the world of the Blackout Club. It's a critical part of the game's alternate history of humanity, it's part of the daemons themselves, and it's why they do what they do.
By understanding the Old Tongue, we understand them too. In Redacre, knowledge is power.
We now have a website with links to all of our guides and resources on it. This includes the Newbie Guide, the Lorepedia, the Player Terms Lexicon, and more. You can find that at tinyurl.com/thedreamingprophet. And as always, there's an official interaction archive on the Discord. This archives both God Talks and personal dreams. If you have transcripts or videos, please add them to the archive. There is also an option to allow your encounter to be used to support the wiki, which is heavily encouraged. Join the Discord to get involved at discord.gg/theblackoutclub. The Blackout Club is made by Question Games. Our transcript and assets are by Lavanya. Audio editing and video is done by me, Astro. Our guest today was Azhaiel. Xaviul finally ran out of jokes.
I'll be back.